Hey, Cole, last time we talked about maybe the idea of creating honest work, and I've heard you talk about that before. What do you mean by creating honest work?
Well, when I was trying to find my vision and I realized that I was creating for others, I had this idea that for me to really express myself through my vision, I needed to be honest.
Hmm.
And so I had this idea of what it meant to me to create honest work. And it included that it was my idea, it wasn't borrowed or stolen. And I hate that quote, what good artists borrow, great artists steal. That's disgusting.
Yeah.
Uh, it had to be my idea. It couldn't be an idea that I saw someone else do, and then like I saw someone else do a Harbinger, and then I run off and do the project. No, it had to be my idea. It had to be images that I created for myself because they were expressing something, not creating to get accolades or likes. And that pretty well sums up what creating honest work means.
Yeah, and I go ahead, I'm
It
sorry.
had to be through my vision, had to be from my vision.
Right. Yeah, and what impressed me early on in our friendship, I remember bringing you to the Alabama Hills for the first time. And you, like everybody else, said, "Why are there Alabama Hills in California?" Which happens a lot, right? Um, and I remember you telling me, because I didn't know you that well at that time, that you're not going to look, because I was like wanting to send you pictures, and you said no, no, don't send me any pictures. I said, oh, okay. So, but you can go. What you can do is you can go online. Do you know how to do a Google search for Alabama Hills and then hit images? And that'll give you an idea, Cole. And you said, nope, not going to do that either. And that's where you introduced me way back when to this idea of, no, I just want to show up, and to use a term I like to use, and be taken by whatever takes me, and then make images that are honest. And I want to create honest work when I go there for the first time. So it was really cool, actually. That was so educational for me to see you show up in a place that I thoroughly love and couldn't wait to introduce you to. But you show up completely. You talk about showing up in neutral. You were totally in neutral. You weren't that you had no preconceived ideas. You didn't even know what was going to be there. And it really allowed you to do honest work. And I had never thought about that before.
Well, if I had looked at, say, some of your images and was taken by one, that would have eliminated the possibility of me doing that
Yeah.
image or that as a portfolio. And that's another reason I do photographic celibacy. Once I see somebody, if I would have seen a Harbinger image, I would never have been able to pursue that portfolio.
Interesting.
It's just a line I can't cross. So I don't want to see other. And this got in the way in a very practical way. I did my first power line image in San Francisco. Must have been in the 80s or 90s, but never thought it was a fine art subject. So I never pursued it. Well, then a few years ago, I had one of my images in the book by George Barr, Why Photographs Work. And he mailed me a copy. I grabbed it and I'm flipping through it
Oh,
looking for my
no.
image and saw an image called Three Crosses. Oh my gosh, now my mind will go blank, by Brian Kosoff.
Yes.
Three telephone poles aligned on a dry, grassy hill, looks to be in Northern California. Just fell in love with that image. Actually contacted him and purchased it. It's hanging in my office. But then I thought to myself later, I can't pursue that Powerline image series because I've seen Brian's. And then as the years went by, I realized, you know what? I saw it first. It's okay for me to do it, even though I loved his image. But I have to be careful not to try to imitate that image because it is such a great image.
Well,
But I almost didn't do the portfolio because of that.
I remember you talking about that image specifically. What did you do for the next 2 or 3 months? I think you
Oh
told me
my
that you kind
gosh.
of went out and tried to copy that. I mean, you not intentionally, but you
Yeah.
found yourself doing that image or derivations of that image.
Driving around, I was constantly looking for telephone poles aligned the way he had his three. Just a gorgeous image. I mean, it's funny how we all have different tastes, but that image took me. And I would have to remind myself, no, I can't do that. Brian's done Brian. I have to be me.
One
But it
other
was,
one. Go ahead.
go
I'm
ahead.
sorry.
No,
One other
no.
thought on this, and that doesn't mean, and you'll know where I'm going on this in a minute. It doesn't mean that even though you have these ideas that are honest ideas, they're yours, they're from your own vision. Have you ever had a situation where all of a sudden somebody else is doing that same thing and you had no clue they were doing it?
Well, twice. Once, to speak of, the very first portfolio I submitted to Lenswork of my grain silos, and Brooks said, "Hey, love it, but in this current issue, there's a fellow named Larry Blackwood, and we're publishing his grain silos." And I said, Larry and I know each other, and
Isn't
we
that
were
funny?
working independently and doing the same project, but didn't know it.
How
And
about
so
that?
Brooks did end up publishing mine, and I think wrote an article about fellow travelers who, because let's face it, I remember when I submitted my sand dunes images. I submit them to Lenswork, rejected again by Brooks Jensen. And he says, I see these all the time. They're a dime a dozen.
Wow.
But they were honest work for me, even though others had done it. They were original work,
Yes.
unique work for me.
Yeah. And
Now, if I would have seen you doing them and me went out and imitating them, that wouldn't have been honest work.
yeah, it's really interesting, isn't it? Because that is a really good differentiating factor. And I think that story is good because what it illustrates for me is the power of staying true to your vision and doing honest work doesn't mean that you're not going to overlap with somebody, but at least you
No.
can walk away feeling good that this is your stuff and it
Yeah.
wasn't inspired by or it wasn't influenced by others. Now, as I say that, I can hear a whole bunch of people in the comments
Sure.
already saying, but I like looking at other people's work and I want to be inspired and I can actually, block out of my mind all those
Yeah.
great images that Cole and John make in Death Valley, and I can create my own ones. And maybe that's another whole discussion, but because
Yeah.
I've
Yeah.
often
I don't
said that
know.
you're just weak. You just, it's a good image and you just can't help but want to go do it.
Look, at people say they inspire me, and I tell them honestly, they inspired me too
Yeah.
to copy those images.
Yeah.
That's what they inspired me to do. And so I just prefer to be celibate and create work that is honest.
Honest work. I like it. Good thoughts today. Folks, ring the bell, subscribe, like, share, all that stuff. And we sure appreciate you following along. See ya.